Hey class, Professor Bankert here. I'm going to be responding to your second post, your reading reflections dealing with utilitarianism. I want to talk about the example given. The example is about an economic policy where the top 2% will have a tax increase, and that money will help balance the budget and help provide services to the elderly, to the poor, food stamps, busing, other things, right? So there's a large percentage of the population that gets aided, but 2% is being hurt because their taxes go up, right? This is not dissimilar to the policy, at least expressed by Barack Obama during both his initial campaign and during his re-election campaign, where he said he wanted to raise taxes on those making over $250,000 a year, right? And the logic is pretty clearly utilitarian. Especially from an act utilitarian standpoint, right? For the next little while, as we're in a budgetary issue, budgetary crisis, we tax the wealthy, which represent a very small percentage of the population. We use that money to help get us out of this economic crisis, to stabilize things like Social Security, Medicare, other benefits to the poor, which comprise a much greater percentage than 2%. So who's being affected? The people of the United States, right? How are they being affected? Well, 2% hurt. Let's say 50% being helped. A lot of us won't matter one way or the other. And the numbers come out pretty clear. Hurt 2%, help 50%, right? The utilitarian says this is probably what we should do, right? This economic plan makes sense. We're hurting the few, we're helping the many, and we're doing something that seems necessary. If we don't do it, there might be some real tough economic times up ahead, and so lots of utilitarians might reason this way. Now, a rule utilitarian, right, wants to come onto the scene and say something like, well, does this set good precedent long term? Act utilitarians are often short-term thinkers. Rule utilitarians are often long-term. If we make this a rule to follow, if we implement this as a rule, will that benefit the country overall? Will that maximize good consequences? And here there are many economists that disagree, right? There are lots of economists that want to say, yes, higher taxes for the rich will help stabilize the economy long term, but others say that's absolutely not true, that we're going to de-incentivize hard workers that want to make lots of money. We're going to force corporations to move overseas. We're going to outsource jobs. There's going to be all kinds of things moving forward that will actually hurt the economy and lead to bad consequences. So instead of that, we need to free the citizenry, small business, the wealthy from taxes, at least somewhat. That they might be creative, create new jobs. We incentivize hard work and ingenuity, and that long term that will help the economy flourish, right? So in the short term, we have to deal with some of this stuff, right, that we don't want to deal with the economy. But long term, it will be better. And so there's a tension here, but both are making utilitarian arguments, right? They're both basing it on consequences and whatnot. There's just a difference in what will actually be best for the most. Something similar came up when in 2007, 2008, when the economy crashed, right? There were many that said, let the banks fail, let's go into a depression, right? And over time, smart people will begin to reconstruct, and the economy will sort of rise up from the ashes, and we will have done away with a lot of this government bureaucracy. We will have done away with a lot of these horrible banking practices, and we can sort of begin to start a new free market that's much stronger and going to be better for America long term. So like literally, short term, let's just go through the muck. Lots of unemployed people, lots of issues economically. The United States standard of living will plummet, the dollar will be hurt, but in the end, we will clear house in such a way that will be stronger long term. Others said, you can't do that, right? Utilitarians said, think of the negative consequences that such a collapse, if the government doesn't bail these banks out, if the government doesn't bolster, right, the economy, think of what will happen. We might never regain our economic prominence globally. China might take that many more steps towards being our superior economically. And we can't allow for that. So the risks were too much, the consequences were too much. So we've got to do something to ensure that we save people's jobs, we save these banks, we get the credit rolling again, and we get out of this mess. Again, utilitarians disagreeing. I find this very interesting. I've really been enjoying the posts. I've really been enjoying the discussion. I hope that this has been helpful. Something I'll say as you approach your CAP paper on utilitarianism. If you're going to make a utilitarian argument, which I'm going to ask you to do, you've got to have some data. You've got to have something tangible to say, see, that's what happened the last time we did this. Or see, these are the consequences I'm talking about, how negative it is, right, X, Y, and Z. I need you to do a little bit of research so that it's not just hypothetical consequences, but that maybe you can try to make it a little bit more concrete in terms of, if we do X, this is the result. If we do Y, this is the result. Okay? I hope this helps. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I will see you guys online.